Welcome back to the spooky season, everybody. Last year for Halloween, I covered one of my favorite guilty pleasures in survival horror, ObsCure. And on replay, I was pleasantly surprised at how well this game held up after almost 20 years. It truly is a hidden gem for the PlayStation 2. I knew from replaying this game that I absolutely had to revisit ObsCure's sequel, ObsCure the Aftermath. Or just ObsCure 2 for the rest of the world. Originally, I picked this game up for the Nintendo Wii, and let me just stress, that did not do the game any favors gameplay-wise. But I remember the story being good and the music being good, so surely with the game's remaster on Steam, this should be a home run, right? Unless I'm like misremembering and this game is like total ass. But before we get too deep into this, I'm going to give you all the spoiler warning shtick right now. Because we're going to be talking about every aspect of this game. Its story, its characters, its ending, its cut content. If you'd like to go through this game for yourself, please check it out on Steam. It's like $12 and is well worth the playthrough. Though definitely make sure you also install the widescreen mod for this game, as on modern setups, this game can kinda be a little janky. And with that warning out of the way, let's begin. So first, a quick overview. ObsCure 2 is a direct sequel to the original game, set 2 years after the events of Leafmore High, though somehow they have been more or less covered up by authorities. It seems like people outside of the original cast have heard stories about what happened. A couple of times, the game refers to these as the Leafmore High incidents, but they're by and large just dismissed as rumors spread by overreactive teenagers. Sibling survivors Shannon and Kenny are now enrolled in the nearby University of Fall Creek. Meanwhile, Stan has apparently done some prison time between the first game and now, having botched a robbery and getting arrested at the scene. But he has reformed now and just wants to get on with his life, working a steady job as a delivery truck driver. And that job's gotta be paying well, because our stoner boy Stan managed to afford a brand new voice actor with all those paychecks, so, good for him. And as for Ashley and Josh, they're both notably absent in the game's intro. And from the entire game, on that note. I could have accepted that Josh maybe moved out of town and went to a different university. Somewhere miles away from the place he had to fight for his life against those monsters from the first game. But Ashley being gone is a little weird, if only because she was Kenny's girlfriend in the first game. And she's never even mentioned in this game by Kenny or any of her friends. Now, if you were hoping for a little closure on these two characters, I don't know, maybe you're just some cool skunk critter and those two characters were like your mains from the last game, I don't know, I didn't watch that video. I will tell you now, there is one secret little cutscene in this game that kinda shows you the fate of these two characters. But to view it, you do need to unlock every one of the item boxes that need 3 small keys each. So just make sure you open every one you come across. Or you can always just, check out the full Let's Play of the game I've put up to accompany this video. Links in the description, blah 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 blah. Aside from our legacy survivors, we also have a bevy of new survivors who are all attending Fall Creek University. Tori, May and her twin sister June, Sven and his crush Amy, totaling 8 playable characters, dwarfing the game's original 5 protagonists. But we'll go into depth more about this later. The game kicks off with Corey and May setting out to meet up with their friend Sven at his dorm for drinks. This whole intro section is so nostalgic to the mid-2000s and the media back then. And honestly, I'd be lying if I didn't say I was pretty excited to re-experience this whole game all over again. Though the camera controls are just a tad wonky to get used to. And because the camera is controlled with your mouse while you're using your keyboard, there's like always a mouse pointer just floating around on your screen. Which, slightly breaks my immersion, not to mention if you, accidentally, like, click out of your screen on, say, your second monitor, the whole game freezes up like a deer in headlights, which, didn't happen to me a ton through this whole playthrough.
Okay, fine, I'm cool, I'm fine.
I'm sure if you're playing with a controller, this is a non-issue. There are also these Joe Swansons outside of your window just screaming,
"We're gonna miss the drinks at Sven's!"
Okay, I'm coming with you.
I don't know what's got them so hyped, but they're already my favorite characters in this new game. We make our way down the dorm corridors. Originally based on the game's storyboards, this was going to have a lot more little cutscenes to give the characters a bit more depth, having some fun back and forth with each other and the surrounding students. Though in the final game, we just walk on down to Sven's dorm and invite ourselves in. Where we're welcomed in and immediately get hit with, "Bro, do these smell like drugs to you?" Huffing something that kinda looks like black mold. Yum yum. A renter's delicacy.
Yummers.
Sven tells us how everyone on campus is making tea with this flower. And look, that ain't tea, my guy, but you live your life, King. And then it's time they all try it. Kenny even poking his head in around the corner to cop a huff of those sweet, sweet drugs before getting cucked by his sister and dragged off elsewhere. Leaving our new gang of characters to, just huff a bunch of crushed up flowers and pass out. Oh, to be a teenager again.
Crap. What the hell am I doing here?
We wake up as Corey somewhere dark and uninviting. It looks like we're in the middle of a forest, quickly finding a bat and an unconscious May.
May, what's going on?
Exploring deeper and finding things take a turn for the surreal. Clearing out these weird mannequins that block our way as we watch some shadowy figure dragging off what sounds like Amy into a nearby mausoleum. We give chase, trying to catch up to the figure, constantly getting flashbanged with environment changing around us, seeing our friends badly mangled and dying as we push deeper in, finally reaching the end of this stone hallway, finding Amy splayed out on an enormous blooming flower, dead with her stomach cut open, her taunting words still echoing in this bizarre place. Before we're abruptly ambushed by two of the mutant students from the first game, hobbling towards us and grabbing May, biting down on her head as Corey cries out in horror, before waking up on the floor of the dormitory bathrooms, our vision blurry as we come to grips with the nightmare we just witnessed. If the opening long shot of the floating flower didn't clue you in already, these students are finding and crushing up the flowers of the Mortophilia plant. The same thing that was used to make the serum students were injected with in Leafmore High and caused everyone to turn into fucking ghouls. Which, I feel like might just be a little bit of a teensy weensy major fucking problem. And if what Sven said was true and students have been doing this for like a month now, surely it's fine, right? What's the worst that could happen? What a surprise that not a single fucking soul the night of the big Delta Theta Gamma party dramatically shifts from sweet rager with a bunch of horny teens to holy shit, man, why did you turn into a reptilian creature and start eating my face? Balls itch. The mutations in the game are a lot more rapid and dramatic than those of the original, with these monsters taking on a lot more intense changes to their physiology, making some of the original monsters look pretty tame by comparison. Our protagonists find themselves smack in the middle of this panic at the disco, banding together to survive and escape from the fraternity house. Initially playing as Kenny and Amy, having to solve some puzzles and open up a pathway to someone who appears to be a teacher at the Delta Theta Gamma, before they're all ambushed by more of the infected students and everything cuts to black. ObsCure 2 has such a large cast of characters that we'll regularly be switching between them after a dramatic cutscene, always keeping the player guessing as the story continues to move forward. After we're done with Kenny and Amy's section, for example, we're back in control of Corey and May, who arrive at the party just a little after our first two protagonists. You know, when all of this chaos has already kicked off. They can't enter the building the same way Kenny and Amy did. But luckily for us, May can use her phone like a hacking tool to unlock the front door. Man, don't you miss when games and movies tried to magic away problems with a character just pulling out their phones and going, "It's okay, I'm a hacker." Like, dude, this isn't Watch Dogs. What the fuck is this? Just break like a window or something. Still, the minigame for hacking is kind of fun, and often when you need to do these later in the game, you'll be fending off monsters, so there's a real pressure to getting these finished quickly. Once we're inside, we head to the same study we reached as Kenny and Amy, finding it seemingly abandoned, albeit a couple of nasty little facehugger monsters. Dispatching them and heading through the door, we reunite with our friends and the Delta Theta Gamma's biology teacher, Richard James, who is currently elbow deep in dissecting one of these monsters we'd fought off before, confirming what we already knew.
For now, all I can say is that it is, or once was, human. The organs are all still there. There are these purple marks all over it.
This is Matt. I recognize his tattoo, but we saw him not that long ago. He was fine.
It's that flower that's done this.
Kenny piping up that it has to be because of the flowers all of the students have been snorting, clearly recognizing the same dark aura the monsters were giving off from the first game. The biology teacher tells us there's an exit through the dance hall and wishes us good luck, opting to stay behind and continue some experiments with this student. Though he does give us a syringe, which we can use on recently defeated monsters to extract blood from them to create serums. The monsters in this game are a lot more frequent and attack you a lot faster than in its predecessor. So this new mechanic really helps us to stay healed up. Though you'll never feel too overpowered, as the game has significantly less energy drinks and medkits than the first. For this next part, we can choose our team to progress on. Kind of. See, while you technically can choose between Kenny, Corey, Amy, and May, you actually will need both Kenny's ability to push objects and Corey's ability to climb up to places to actually be able to progress. This is kind of like present all throughout ObsCure 2. Where you'll often have these sort of moments where you can choose your team only to find out there's really only one combination that's going to work. Which is kind of a shame, honestly, as it means there just isn't quite as much replayability in this game as the original. Once we're out of the fraternity house, we get to watch a little cutscene where Sven arrives late to the party, before almost getting run over by Corey's car, driven by an unknown person as they veer off into the woods. Corey in hot pursuit to, I don't know, I guess just try and rescue his car? Well, it may just straight up say is what we're all thinking.
Come back, you retard!
Boy, was this game made in a different time. Though, here's a great time to point out just how much of an increase in environments this game does have over the original. While ObsCure 1 kept you basically in Leafmore the entire game, and its environments mostly consisted of class hallways and creepy underground tunnels, ObsCure 2 really went all out to expand on the explorable locations. From the university grounds, the fraternity, to the forest and the hospital, the factory, the abandoned shack, and, spoilers, even a final return to Leafmore. There was a lot of locations to explore, and if we take a little glance at some of the game's cut content, the game was going to have even more locations, even allowing us to explore the entire city of Fall Creek itself. In fact, if you're interested in seeing all of the crazy, undiscovered cut content of ObsCure 2, I'd recommend the channel Bioship 0706, as they basically have everything that's been found cataloged on there, and it's honestly some fascinating stuff. But for now, let's continue. We make our way through the forest and find Corey's car completely totaled. But we at least get access to his dad's shotgun that he just apparently had in the boot of his car. This isn't like a red flag to his friends at all. No? Okay! We continue deeper into the woods and spot a malformed-looking man dragging a sack of something off into the woods, before ambushed by a new type of enemy in the game, the Harpy. And oh man, from my memories playing this game on the Wii, I was dreading fighting these shrieking, floating bitches again. Motion controls made slapping these things out of the air a genuine nightmare. But, well, with the standard controls, they really aren't a problem at all, honestly. A couple swats of the bat or a quick zap of the stun gun makes quick work of them, allowing us to continue on to the next location, the Fall Creek Hospital. After a little parkour, we managed to get inside the hospital. Conveniently just, finding a radio on a nearby gurney with May on the other line. While these Deus Ex Machina walkie-talkies don't make any goddamn sense in the final version of this game, it was discovered in the demo's files that the walkie-talkie was actually going to be an item you could have found in prior areas, even needing to locate some batteries to get them functional. The icon still exists within the game. It even has an in-game object here before the FMV. But sadly, due to likely a combination of time and money, this section, as well as a lot of others, ended up getting the axe from the final game's release. May lets us know that they're going back to check on June and grab her car keys. Then Sven and the twins will head to the hospital and meet us here. Amy and Corey opting to stay put for now, as this place seems safe. Only for us to see a frazzled Kenny sifting through drawers in an unknown room of the hospital. Last time we'd seen him, he wasn't doing too hot, having withdrawals from his medication and desperately needing to get more fast. Clearly the antidote he and the rest of the first game survivors took didn't end up fully curing them from their affliction from the mortophilia plant. Taking out his Deus Ex walkie-talkie and trying to reach out to Stan for help, only to get no answer, and Shannon coming in to let him know she couldn't find anything either. It's interesting to note that while the new protagonists all took to snorting grounded up mortophilia, that the energy drink they take appears to somehow fend off any further infection? Which, I mean, come on, you're trying to tell me that this entire campus just isn't drinking energy drinks? Stan and Kenny have been constantly taking medication to stop the mortophilia spores in their bodies from mutating them and turning them both into monsters these past few years. And as for Shannon, well, apparently she's somehow bonded with the mortophilia plant, and as such, not only doesn't need to take medication, but can even control the spores to some degree. We cut back to Sven and May returning to Fall Creek University at the dead of night. June calling us through the walkie-talkie and telling us that she's barricaded herself in her room. But the monsters seem to know she's in there and are trying to get in. As we try and make our way back into the dorms, we keep hearing a more and more distressed June urging us to get here as soon as possible. And it's here that we're now officially on a timer. If we can't make it to June's room in 6 minutes, she's dead. And the hallways of the university are full of freshly mutated students to try and impede us, having to complete a hacking puzzle while simultaneously fending off monsters. It's honestly a pretty stressful moment in the game, while the music is getting more intense as the timer ticks down. I remember playing through this section the first time and getting really stuck on where to go, resulting in June dying before I could get to her. And as such, have committed the entire route to memory even through these many, many years later. Reaching June just as she's picked up by one of the monstrous ogre enemies and hurled out of the window. However, because we made it here in time, she is alive.
June, tell me you're okay.
I fell into the cellar. I don't know where I am. It's dark here.
Let's go to the reception area downstairs. The basements are packed with cameras. We can track her down on the security monitors.
Upon reaching the reception, we get to play as June, but with kind of an annoying twist. See, we're watching her through the cameras, and for some goddamn reason, these things keep breaking into static, which we need to clear by messing with the dial on the monitor. All while we play as June, who is trying to restore power to the school so the magnetic locks can open and she can get to return to her friends. What's that? You're asking me how we're able to use the security footage while there's no power? What a good-looking question. This little maze-like section is kinda stressful. The tight hallways are crammed with enemies. June doesn't have any healing items and only can defend herself with a bat she finds down here. Once again, if she dies here, she's dead for good. But we persevere, surviving on a fraction of health and get through the school basement, reaching the breaker and flicking back on the mains, only for a shadowy figure to reach June right at the end, causing her to scream out loud as we cut back to May and Sven, rushing down into the basement, hearing June's muffled screams and finding her bat. But no June. A bloody trail leading to a severed arm on the floor. The screams now silent as we push on. Finally, finding June's crumpled body. The music in this scene really hits like a truck as May breaks down next to her dead sister. A loud rumbling roar echoing out from somewhere nearby as Sven scoops up June's car keys and pulls May away. The mournful music continuing as we snap back to Corey and Amy in the hospital, who have heard everything over the walkie-talkies. And this is one of the biggest things I really think that was handled so much better in the original game. If you recall, in ObsCure, every character could die, either through cutscene events or by the game's monsters. It was possible to survive the game as just a single student or as the whole group. This put a lot of urgency on keeping everybody alive, because it felt like you personally were responsible for these characters, and could guide them through the game's horrors so they could all ultimately make it out. But with ObsCure 2, this, again, just isn't the case. Even when the game dangles moments like these over your head and goes, "Ooh, you better hurry, you gotta save them!" the reality is, it's all predetermined. Even after doing everything extra to try and save characters like June, all it ends up amounting to is, well, at least you got her bat. Oh great, thanks game, a fourth melee weapon that does marginally more damage. Thank you so fucking much! Knowing June is kinda destined to die has a lot of people not bothering to rush to her rescue. So all it really amounts to is having to do a bunch of extra busy work for effectively a weapon reskin, opting instead to let her timer run out so we can instead just grab the keys from her body in the dorm and leave. But I don't know, man, I'm a sucker for trying to save people in any game I play, so I digress. Back in the hospital, our goal as Corey and Amy is to find both of the staff keycards so we can unlock the way down. There's a crossbow you can collect from one of the locked item chests in here, and the first encounter of the game's most nasty enemies, the Breeder. And yeah, I mean, ObsCure has never shied away from grotesque monsters and imagery, but this thing definitely takes the cake for holy shit, no thank you. I don't even know if, like, showing this thing on YouTube is going to get me, like, a strike or a warning or something, but, I mean, look, it's a mutated, pregnant woman with talons for her feet that tries to snatch up victims using its tentacle tongue-like appendage to, eat them. Look, whoever designed this monster in this game, I just want you to know, no one on this planet is trying to match your freak. We fend off the crab giant monster as it spews out a bunch of horrible little crotch goblins. This thing is pretty damn hardy and very dangerous to fight head on due to its instant kill attack if it manages to rope one of the characters in. But with a lot of gunfire, this abomination is laid to rest, and we are going to move on from this room so fucking fast! The Wikipedia article on this monster states that, in a cut animation, Corey and Amy would have seen this thing transform before the fight kicks off. We can even watch the storyboards for this in the Wii version's special features menu. You know, I feel like maybe they decided to cut this scene not for money or time, but more of them reflecting on their civic duty and going, "Look, Paul, I'm sorry, but we're cutting this transformation scene. You have some fucking demons, man." After we nab the second car key, we stumble onto a bit of a family disagreement between Shannon and Kenny. Shannon berating Kenny for snorting the mortophilia drug earlier in the night, annoyed at her brother's actions, but also trying to encourage him to not give up. The scene tries to be a heavy, emotional moment like what we just had with June, but some of the dialogue here is just way too rigid.
Then you're going to die, little brother.
Jesus Christ, Shannon! That bedside manner is lethal! Why don't you tell him how you really feel, huh? Kenny seems to think so too, as his body quickly becomes overwhelmed in that same black aura. Kenny screaming out as he begins to mutate. Shannon trying to hold it back, but collapsing, causing the room to erupt in darkness. Corey and Amy fleeing, just a little too casually, towards the elevator as the encroaching darkness pursues them. It still can't get over Amy's little, "Where are we going?" Like she's just been woken up and is annoyed to be told she has an appointment to go to by her mom or something. We get the elevator working in the nick of time, the doors closing as we let out a heavy sigh. Shifting our focus back to Sven and May, who have just pulled up into the car park, finally reuniting with the team in the hospital's reception area. The quiet ambience occasionally being broken by Kenny's howls, begging for Shannon to help him. We progress through the hospital by blowing a hole through the wall, which, I don't know, in retrospect, really, I don't know why the group don't just go out the same way Sven and May came in, but explosions! The next area being another section where we're kinda railroaded into specifically using Corey and Sven to advance, and leading to another cutscene where our group is ambushed by the newly mutated Kenny, who slaps the shit out of everybody and delivers a truly cringy one-liner that, even in 2008 made me wince.
Finally, it looks like we're gonna have a little party.
We then, of course, have to face off against mutated Kenny, the game's first real boss, using Corey and May, the only two protagonists not floored by Kenny's attack. Putting up the best fight we can before a cutscene interrupts the battle. Corey getting flung against a protruding piece of metal rebar. Kenny stomps down on May, popping her head like an overripe watermelon. But before Kenny can finish off Corey, Shannon shows up with a shotgun-toting stand to intervene. The fight continuing as we control these two characters and pump that ex-protagonist full of lead. After taking enough damage, Kenny just kinda pieces the scene, leaving us to tend to our wounded. Corey mourning the loss of May, taking her keychain as a keepsake before the group files out silently, getting into Stan's van and driving away from Fall Creek Hospital. The decision to shift Kenny into the game's, major antagonist honestly is a bit of a mixed bag. I can't say I was expecting it the first time I played through the game, though given the New Zealand box art for the game only features like a creepy hand, we were spared the spoiler that Kenny was going to inevitably turn on us. Unlike the US release of the game, which has his mutated face plastered all over the box art, and even has his monstrous form jumping towards the protagonists. I don't know, man. This would be like if Capcom made the box art for Resident Evil 1 just being Albert Wesker pointing a gun at the back of Chris's head. Like, it kind of takes away from that major heel turn. Though honestly, I do wish the game featured alternative routes to saving Kenny, saving May. Like, this was all handled so elegantly in Obscure 1, even with their cutscene deaths. And it's a real shame that this game didn't get as much time as it clearly needed. It feels like that's one of the biggest complaints that is leveled against Obscure 2. It's a great premise of a game with a lot of potential and amazing music that was clearly mishandled in its twilight hours. A story we hear all too much about in the modern landscape of video games. After Stan takes his eyes off the road to ogle Shannon for just a little too long, they end up flipping the van off the road and down the hillside, ending up wrecked at the outskirts of the Fall Creek Dam. Shaken up, but amazingly, everyone being fine. Shannon and Stan offering to scout the area while Richard James and the other students recover from the crash. From here, we enter the run-down dam, an area full of locked doors and pathways blocked by black spores. Luckily, Stan still maintains his lockpicking abilities from the first game. Albeit it's like 10 times more annoying now that it's a minigame. Oh, sure, these ones don't look so bad, but just you wait. Together, Stan and Shannon reach the control room of the dam, finding the console dead and thus unable to take the elevator down. Shannon spotting Amy through the murky glass of the control room, sitting by herself in the room below, looking quite off. Before Stan starts to get weak, passing out from, I assume, lack of medication. Or maybe you got a concussion in that crash. I mean, I'd believe it. Now, how Amy managed to recover from the van, sneak out after us, and beat us to that area in the dam? I have no goddamn idea. And once again, feels like a plot hole that was created due to some part of the game getting cut. We'll touch on this a little more later, but regardless, Sven and Corey are back on their feet, and our task now is to find some welding equipment to repair the controls in the dam. They get to exploring a different route to Stan and Shannon's, ultimately finding the welding tools and meeting up with their friends, restoring power to the elevator in the control room, and taking it down to meet up with Amy, where Kenny once again rears his ugly head, implying pretty damn bluntly that he, I'm just gonna play the cutscene, okay?
Check on the blonde. I wasn't too gentle with her.
Ugh! What did you do to her, you bastard? Somebody please blow his freaking head
I
off!
thought I taught you to respect women, Kenny.
Never mind, Shannon. I don't think he understands. He never did.
We get another fight with mutated Kenny here. Okay, look, I need to pause and just talk about this because, again, the developers really wanted to show just how far they were willing to take a twist in a horror video game. And even as someone who's watched thousands of hours of horror games and movies and content, this one just... ugh. So remember before I mentioned that it felt like some parts of the game were missing? Like how the hell Amy even ended up here? Well, I kind of suspect that after the original fight with Kenny, he was originally going to end up abducting Amy before shuffling off into the darkness. This would have explained how she ended up here before us, and, well, how that happened. Do I think this twist is good? No, absolutely not. Even as a kid, I remember just being like, oh, what the fuck? Like, it ends up being very relevant to the final moments of the game, so, like, you can't really just cut it here, but I don't know, man. I think any kind of horror medium that decides to talk or cover these kind of subjects, like, they really need this kind of grace to handle it, to pull it off and not come across as, well, fucking gross. Like, if you recall in my Silent Hill 2 video, Angela's character went through a lot. Like, this kind of a lot. But the game treated it with the severity it kinda needed. Whereas ObsCure's got Kenny out here twirling his villainous mustache, going, "Mwahaha, you're no match for Chester the Molester." I kinda agree with Sven here. Let's just blow his fucking head off and be done with this. Finally, we drop the last giant metal MacGuffin onto Kenny, sending him flailing down into the darkness, presumably dead. At least Corey sure thinks so.
Just killed your brother, Shannon. This nightmare's changing all of us.
No, I think this nightmare changed him, specifically. You know, the big monster man we crushed with, whatever the fuck that thing was. God, you people need to work on your pep talks. With Kenny totally dead for real this time, we move on, out of the dam and towards the lake. Another call on the walkie-talkies from Sven, letting us know that the others have made their way via boat to the little island on the middle of the lake. Don't really know why, but hell, that's where we're headed, so we grab a dinghy and chart a course across the waters to try and catch up with them.
My arms hurt.
You haven't even started.
If you only knew. We're there. The island isn't huge. We'll end up finding the others.
Though it looks like even this little island is overrun with the mortophilia spores and infected. Soon enough, we catch up with Stan and Richard James, before a scream echoes out across the lake. As we cut to Sven and Amy, who are just ahead of the group and en route to mainland. Amy talking about what happened back at the dam, talking about feeling dirty. Yeah, none of the cast are very good at consoling one another, so maybe we should just focus on the rowing, huh? Upon reaching the shore, we've got a couple more monsters to fend off before we reach a cemetery. Amy mentions being able to see a house past this place, but needing to somehow get through the mausoleum first. This puzzle isn't super apparent at first, but essentially, you need to connect up the tombstones so they make a picture. Like, it sounds vague, but as you start to play around with it and view it through that kind of center pillar part, it's honestly pretty easy. Upon passing through the cemetery, we reach the shack. A very decrepit old place that, at a glance, you might mistake for being abandoned. Only as you approach, you're attacked by more monsters. The front door is locked tight, but there's a side door we can take that's blocked by an old washing machine. Sven moving it aside and letting us in through an old greenhouse. The table by the door having traces of the mortophilia plant on it. Really should be an indicator that this place is not somewhere we probably want to be.
Somebody lives here, Sven. I'm sure. He'll be able to help us.
Oh, well, if you say so then, Amy.
2 kids gon' die tonight!
As soon as we approach the door, though, the deformed man we saw earlier in the game comes looming out of the house, brandishing a chainsaw, and in his warmest hillbilly welcome. Amy manages to run into the house behind him, but Sven winds up getting bonked on the head and knocked out cold. And if the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has taught me anything, it's that guy is totally fucked now. After the cutscene, we're back in control of Stan and Shannon, reaching the shore we were at with the others only moments ago. And with the graveyard puzzle already completed, we're good to just head right through to the shack. Just make sure you're prepared for a fight, as the minute you enter the area, you get rushed by a group of 3 rammers, which can be pretty dangerous in larger groups like this. Upon entering the shack, we can explore a little before regrouping with Corey and Amy. It's not really explained how Corey got here, but we'll chalk that up as another loose end from time and budget constraints. Sven is still somewhere inside this shack, as is his kidnapper, who we discover here is none other than Jedediah, the mutant child of Leonard Freeman and Nurse Wixon. His severe deformities and mutations all caused by the mortophilia. Now to get to Sven, we'll need to complete a couple of puzzles first. unlocking the upstairs room in the house and collecting all 3 metal crosses, which we use in the basement downstairs. Once we have them, we can attach them to the statues in the basement and move them around with this weird little crane mechanism. Once they're in the right position, something that had me a little stumped until I realized the photo we found earlier shows the exact position we need to use, finally aligning the pillars and getting through to Sven. Only to find he's not doing so hot.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
You're dead!
Sven! Sven! Don't leave me! You have to stay with me!
Stay. With you.
As we continue to chase Jedediah into the underground tunnels beneath his house, the environment begins to become more and more familiar to anyone who played through the events of the first game. The doors, the walls, everything matching up with the underground sections of Leafmore High. And sure enough, as we finally find an exit, it leads us straight into the abandoned ruins of the old school. Returning back to Leafmore High was honestly such a cool area to have the game reach its climax. While the entire school isn't accessible, a good chunk of it is. We can see a number of cranes and barriers put up around the school, like they were still in the middle of demolishing it, before the remaining monsters clearly got to the crew. We continue to push our way through the decrepit ruins of Leafmore, working through a few puzzles and fighting off the shadows of our past, until we finally reach Jedediah, nursing a somehow still alive Leonard Friedman.
This rotten old tree? I don't believe it. It's Friedman. I thought we killed him 2 years ago.
Yeah, turns out this monster wasn't quite as dead as the final cutscene of the first game would have had you believe. Which is still kinda insane, because, like, we saw his whole body just burn up and turn into dust because of the sunlight, right? Well, forget all that, because that shit's been retconned. We still, of course, defeated him, but his mangled remains were tended to by his mutant offspring, Jedediah, who's been nursing him back to strength, the blooming flowers that have been spreading the Mortophilia spores coming from his body. So, Stan and Corey decide it's time to wrap up this Friedman family reunion as we commence with the final boss fight of the game. This battle pits the two of us against both Jedediah and Leonard. Whenever we damage Jedediah enough, he'll retreat back into the tree where Leonard shields him from harm, flashing out at us until we can saw off his limbs. Dealing with Jedediah isn't too bad, as you can generally outpace him and just shoot him. But for the Leonard part, you can't really avoid his wide sweeping swings, which can feel a little cheap, honestly. But once he gets tired from all the whipping, and after taking a little bit of damage, he'll lower one of his tentacly tree appendages for you to chainsaw off. How polite. Once we've completed this 2 more times, the fight is over, killing Leonard and leaving just his worked up mutant baby boy to go. The flowers wilting as Stan and Corey leave the ruins of Leafmore. Hearing Richard over the walkie-talkies, telling us that help has arrived and to meet him at the parking lot. The hopeful music swelling as the credits roll. And that was ObsCure 2. I gotta say that even with its flaws and its cut content and questionable choices, it's still a pretty fun survival horror game. Sure, not as good as the first game in a lot of metrics, but you can definitely see the developers had a lot of big plans for the sequel here. And some of that definitely shines true, but... Okay, hold on. Let me just fast forward through these credits.
No, well, there's Olivier Devirier. That guy's music really made this game. Made the last game, too.
Alright, there we are. Oh, turns out we got a little after credits scene here.
Is that the help you promised? Where are the cops? What's your problem?
She's our responsibility now, my dear Stan. The mortophilia that you knew 2 years ago was only a dress rehearsal, of which this is the ultimate evolution. The Freedmans only just failed. Their plant refused to be subjected to the demands of the human body. But this evening, nature has helped us well.
Nature? Not likely. Friedman was still alive.
Was? Oh. At least he will have completed his work. Your friend has brought us new hope.
You pig! You watched all those people die without doing anything!
My colleagues were late to arrive. I'm sorry. These sacrifices were inevitable.
Where is Shannon?
Oh, you will be with her soon.
I want to sleep.
Wait, the game continues on? Yeah! Turns out that ending after we finished off the Freedmans was only a fake out. We're back in control of Shannon and Stan, clutching a medallion we picked up, but the rest of our inventory entirely gone.
Stan! Shannon! We're in a bit of trouble here. I managed to escape. They took Amy. I'm gonna try to get her back.
Don't do anything stupid, Corey.
I can get them!
Corey, by yourself, you're gonna get killed.
We need to make our way off the road and through the woods, completely weaponless, and returning back to where it all started, the Delta Theta Gamma Fraternity House. We see the second ambulance, the one that had Amy in it, has pulled up here and been abandoned. Richard and his goons have already moved Amy somewhere deeper inside, but at least leaving us a medkit for our troubles. When we enter the building, our walkie-talkies pick up Richard calling through to a helicopter team, advising them of a new pickup location for himself and Amy, Lincoln Stadium. So we need to make our way through here and reach the stadium as soon as possible. This part of the game is probably the most tense, as we have none of our weapons or healing items from before the fake credit roll, leaving us needing to essentially kite every enemy that comes at us. Eventually, we make it back to the first meeting place the group gathered at, finding a dead hazmat flunky and finding a couple of weapons to defend ourselves. And most importantly, the second medallion. When we first arrived in this location back at the start of the game, there were these giant stone doors here that had 2 slots. This is where we can insert the medallions, leading to a puzzle where we need to line up a bunch of symbols to match the Delta Theta Gamma ones, as well as aligning the centerpieces to kinda connect up all of the lines. It's a little fiddly, but eventually they'll click into place, giving us access to the inner sanctums of the fraternity house.
Okay, it's open!
It's here that a lot of major plot implications become clear, and the house's involvement with Leonard and Herbert Friedman finally come to light. It was these guys who continued to support the Friedmans with their research into the mortophilia plant, even going as far as sending them some live test subjects, so the number of missing students wouldn't cause as much alarm. They even have a full-blown museum dedicated to the events of the first game. It was these guys who managed to get Leafmore High covered up as well, their connections running deeper than we ever could have expected. And it's at this museum where, if we've collected every box prior to this one, we can finally view the hidden tape of what happened to the two final protagonists from the first game, Josh and Ashley. We watch the camera's silent footage as Josh and Ashley explore the ruins of Leafmore High, at some point after it had been shut down. While Josh is panning around and trying to get footage of the place, Ashley suddenly disappears, before he himself is ambushed by... Jedediah fucking Friedman. It's most likely that these two were killed even before the events of this game took place. Unceremoniously off camera, no pun intended. Honestly, this is such a letdown. Though we technically don't see them die in this cutscene, so who knows, maybe they managed to escape somehow, or just ended up as two of the mutated monsters that attacked us on our way to the shack. We finally make our way out of the fraternity house, following a path through the forest that leads us to the stadium, where the final showdown of the game is going to take place. And also where this cute little Sub 42 poster is, which is definitely a reference to Sum 41, the band who provided the first game's killer intro song. We enter the stadium to witness the game's final cutscene, where we hear an all too familiar voice.
Here we are, at the climax of things. A new beginning. And you, Corey, even though I took everything you cared for away from you, you will come to love me like a brother. For you and I will be the same.
You know what, Kenny? There's only one person I ever belonged to. And it was May.
Now, again, this all feels very rushed, and kinda like we missed something. And that's because it is, and we did! Originally, there was going to be an entire alternate ending to the game, where Corey was going to survive. But for what feels like the 1000th time I've said it in this video, was cut due to time and money. The PSP release of this game even going so far as to show us the storyboards for the good ending of the game. And thanks to some very inquisitive hackers, we can even see some elements of this final route is still in the final release. Though, of course, none of this was all sadly implemented in the game. But enough talk, let's finish off this monster once and for all.
My spawn will soon be born, Shannon.
Cool. It'll be able to get a taste of my gun.
The final encounter with Kenny here is a hell of a mission. We need to activate these 4 switches scattered around the arena, while doing enough damage to Kenny to stun him in place. The first 2 switches are easy enough. You just get to him and mash the action button. You can even manage this without stunning Kenny if you pick your moments right. However, the last 2 are substantially more annoying. The first one is blocked by the Dark Aura, meaning we need to do the little breathing in minigame with Shannon before we have access to the levers. And then the final one is locked behind the goddamn lockpicking minigame. This one by far is the most stressful, but if you can keep your focus, you will manage it before Kenny recovers from his stun. You just may need to run around and stun him again before you can actually pull the lever down. But once you do pull that final lever, the giant overhead lighting rig will come crashing down, crushing Kenny and ending this fight.
Our family's getting bigger now, sis.
You were my only family, Kenny.
Please, take care of my child.
Don't worry. I'll make sure it will be dealt with. I won't allow it to live.
Shannon! This is finally the end of it?
I don't know. But it is time to cut all family ties, once and for all.
Rock and roll, baby. Rock and roll.
And so, that was the real ending to ObsCure 2. And honestly, even with all this game's issues, that fake-out ending will never not be amazing to me. Through all of this game's flaws, I still see the vision the developers at Hydravision had. And I wish wholeheartedly that this game, hell, the entire franchise, would get picked up by another developer to carry the torch forward. I think the first game is honestly perfect as is, and doesn't really need anything more than maybe some nice upscaling. But a full remake of ObsCure 2 that fixes up all of these missing moments in the story, that brought back the alternate endings and ability to save certain characters, would be such an awesome return to form. And would mean we can finally see an ObsCure 3 someday, maybe. I mean, sure, it's unlikely. But remakes and rehashing shit is basically what Hollywood and the video game industry have been doing for a good decade now. And this is one series that I do think deserves a second shot. But for now, I think this video has gone on long enough. Thank you all so much for watching and sticking around to the end here. I hope you have a great rest of your Halloween, and I'll see you all again really soon. Stay safe, and take care of yourselves, everybody.